Every family has a story, right? A history we think we know like the back of our hand. But what if I told you that underneath all the holidays, the arguments, and the shared memories, there's this invisible architecture of power and influence? Well, today we're going to learn how to see it. We're going to uncover your family's hidden power map.
So let's just dive right in with a simple but kind of profound question. Who really runs your family? Who holds the actual, genuine influence?
And I bet your mind immediately jumps to the loudest voice, right? Or maybe the person who earns the most money, or that matriarch who seems to organize everything. But here's the thing. It's often not who you think. The real power structure can be so much more subtle and way more surprising. Okay, so how in the world do we see this invisible structure? Well, we're going to use a simple, but believe me, an incredibly powerful tool. Let's just call it a map of influence. Now, there's a formal term for this. It's called a family genogram. But please don't let that fancy word intimidate you. For what we're doing, just think of it as a simple, visual map of your family system. It shows who holds the sway and, this is the most important part, how that influence shifts and changes across the different chapters of your life.
And making this map is so straightforward. Seriously, there are just 3 basic rules. First, you're going to pick 4 key chapters from your life. Maybe when you were a teenager, when you first left home, after a huge life event, and then today. Second, you just use squares for men and circles for women. Simple. And third, and this is the real key, you draw the size of each shape based on its influence at that time. A bigger shape means more influence. It's really that easy.
But what do we actually mean by influence? That's a great question. It's really a mix of different things. It could be the main person earning the income, or maybe the primary decision maker. It might be the person with the most education. Or, hey, it could be that sibling who just has incredible communication skills, It could even be tied to something as simple as birth order. These are all the things you're going to think about when you decide just how big to draw each circle and square.
All right, theory is one thing, but let's actually see how this works in the real world. We're going to walk through a true story, a life drawn out in 4 distinct acts, just to see how one of these family maps can evolve over time.
So Act 1, we're at age 17. And in this blended family, the power dynamic is, well, it's immediately obvious. The father is the dominant influence. His square is literally dwarfing everyone else's. And notice how the second brother from the father's side also has some significant sway. Meanwhile, the mother and the other siblings, they're much smaller. This isn't just a drawing. It's a crystal clear map of a very traditional hierarchy.
Okay, now let's fast forward to Act 2. At age 32, a huge life event changes everything. The father passes away. And this is where the map shows its true power. A vacuum is created, right? And watch how the mother's influence just expands to fill it. She steps into a completely new role, and because of that, the entire balance of power among the siblings gets redrawn.
Then in Act 3, at age 40, another tragedy strikes. But out of that adversity, a totally new leader emerges. The younger sister, she launches a business, and she becomes the new head of the household. Her influence just grows and grows, not because she planned it, but out of sheer necessity. It's a really powerful reminder of how a crisis can reshape not just our roles, but our entire identities inside a family. And finally, Act 4 brings us to today. And look at this map. It is no longer a simple hierarchy. It's a complex, balanced web. The older brother's influence has grown to match his sister's, not through money or authority, but through his character and his service to the family, a totally different kind of power. And now with new spouses in the mix, the map shows a system that is truly, deeply evolved. It reflects the beautiful messiness of a real family's journey.
Okay, so that's how you draw the map. But the real question is, what does it actually tell us? This is where the exercise stops being a simple drawing and becomes a really profound tool for self-discovery.
When people actually do this, the reactions are often, well, they're deeply emotional. One person shared this really powerful realization. They said, "I was shocked to see how small my own circle was. I had always been on the periphery."
And that right there, that's the power of this exercise. The map forces you to visually confront your role. It is one thing to feel like you're an outsider. It is a whole other thing to see that feeling staring back at you as a tiny little circle in the corner of a page.
And here's another discovery that comes up all the time, one that just turns our assumptions upside down. Someone said, "My father was loud and authoritarian, but the map showed my quiet mother held all the real power, spiritually and financially."
This uncovers this idea of the unexpected power broker.
See, it's rarely the most visible or outspoken person. So often, the true influence lies with that quiet, steady individual whose power isn't in their volume, but in providing the stability that holds the whole thing together.
So ultimately, what this map does is expose the gap between our perception and reality. We perceive that the loudest voice is in charge. The reality might be that the quiet provider is the one holding the entire foundation. We perceive our own role as insignificant. The reality is our changing role can shift the entire dynamic. We think our family is static, but the map proves it's a living, breathing, constantly evolving system.
And all of this brings us to the ultimate benefit of this entire exercise, the ability to see your own story and your place in it with a totally new kind of clarity.
Because here's the key takeaway from all of this. Self-awareness is the first step toward change. It just is. You can't navigate your future if you don't understand the map of your past and your present. Seeing your system clearly is what gives you the power to write your next chapter.
And it is so important to remember, this is not about blame. It's not about pointing fingers at who had too much power or who had too little. It is simply about gaining a new perspective, one that can hopefully foster some understanding and empathy for yourself and for every other person on your map.
So I'll leave you with one final question to think about. If you actually took just a few minutes to draw your own family map, to chart your life in 4 acts, what do you think it would reveal about you?